Hello. If you've used Microsoft Access much at all, you probably understand the power of queries. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use parameter queries so that you can actually change your criteria on the fly when you're running a report. So let me give you the example of what we're going to be creating in this video. I have some mailing labels. Now, when I open up the mailing labels report to run, it says, okay, what zip code do you want? So I'm assuming that I don't want all the zip codes. I just want one specific zip code. Now I actually have this set up to ask me for two different zip codes here, but we'll go ahead and get started. So the first zip code I want on my mailing labels for some reason for this mailing I'm doing is 99403. All right, I press enter again and it says, okay, now do you want to add a second zip code? Well, I do, so I'm going to go ahead and choose 83501. I'll press enter and now I've run a report and I'm going to go ahead and do a print preview here. And when I do the print preview, I'm going to see only those two zip codes, the 83501. Now I have a lot more records in here, but the parameter query allowed me to choose what specific zip codes I wanted to show up on my mailing list. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create the query and the mailing labels to go ahead and accomplish this. So I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up a database that has just one table. That table is my customers table, and here I have the ID numbers, which is the primary key, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, and then I also have the gender, which would allow me to do an additional criteria if I just wanted to send out mailing labels or marketing materials to just the males or the females. Okay, now what we're working with are parameter queries. And a parameter query is a query that is a parameter so that when you run the query, it asks you a question. And really what it is an error message. The parameter is saying, I don't know what the heck you're talking about here. What criteria do you want? And so we're going to be able to put in the criteria that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and create a query here. I'm going to go ahead and choose query design. I like doing it that way. I'm going to bring in the customers table. Okay, and now I'm going to choose all of the fields that I need for my mailing labels. I don't need the ID field, and I don't need the gender to show up on the mailing labels itself. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the fields I want, bring them down into my query grid. Okay, now if I run this query right now, I'm going to see everybody that I have, and that's not what I want. I don't want everybody in the table. I want to be able to have it filter to show me and ask me the question, what zip codes do I want? So the criteria that I'm going to be building on is the criteria for the zip. That is the selection that I'm going to be choosing for this particular example. Now I could put in a specific zip code like I demonstrated before, 99403. And I could save this and I would have to call it something like a query selects zip code 99403, which is kind of silly. I want to be able to use queries that I can change, and in this case a parameter query allows me to change it on the fly every time I run my mailing labels. Now I put in a parameter by starting it in brackets, and again, if you've worked with queries much, you will recognize that the brackets are what you use for field names. So essentially what I'm saying here is I want you to put in a field name, and then Access is going to have a heart attack because I can't find that field, but it's going to show us the question that we type in here. So let's go ahead and type in here, what is the first zip code? Now I enclose it in brackets again. Okay. Now, if I quit right now, it would just ask me for one zip code, and I would get one zip code, and there'd be nothing wrong with that. But I actually want to be able to select two zip codes. Maybe I have a city that has a couple of zip codes that I want to target. So I'm going to put in a second parameter right below that, and you'll notice that this is the OR line. So any criteria that I put in here is an either or. So I'm just saying select all of the records with the first zip code that I'm going to type in here, or also the second zip code. So I'll go ahead and put in here, what is the second zip code? And I'll close that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this query. I'm going to call it QRY. That's just the naming convention that I use. Zip code select. And I'll go ahead and put names and addresses as well. There's really nothing wrong with making your queries Very exact names and long names doesn't really hurt a thing. Okay, now I could run this query and it would ask me what zip codes I want, but I want to demonstrate that with the actual mailing labels. So I'm going to go ahead and close this query, and now I'm going to go ahead and create mailing labels based on that query. So I'm going to click on the query here to say, okay, that's the starting point here. I'll go ahead and click on create, and I'll go ahead and choose labels. All right, it asks me what label do I want, and I'm going to use the standard 3-column mailing label, which is the 5160. The Avery style is most often which we'll run into, and it's copied a lot by quite a few other people, other manufacturers as well. Okay, and of course you can measure your labels to make sure it's the right one. So English, Avery 5160. I'll go ahead and click next. Okay, it asks me what style of font I want, and I'm going to go ahead and choose, well, let's go ahead and leave it 11. We'll make it 11, just a little bit larger than what would show up normally here. So I've chosen the font I want, and I've go ahead and select the size and click next. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and build my prototype label. I'm just going to double click on the field name, so I'll double click on first. Now I want a space between first and last, so I'm going to put a space there, and I'll bring in a double click last there. Okay, now I want on the next line the address, so I'll press enter, and I'll bring in the address. I could also just click this arrow here as well, and then I'll press enter again. Now on the next line I want the city, and if you're not using postcard parameters, post office parameters where everything has to be uppercase and no commas, you could set it up that way, but I'm going to go ahead and set it up here with a comma here, a comma and then a space, just so it looks better here, and then the state, and then this space after that, and then the zip. Okay, so I have my first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, ready to go ahead and click next here. And it says, would you like to sort them? Well, I'm going to go ahead and sort them by zip code, even though I'm only going to be selecting 2 specific zip codes, but at least they'll be sorted by those 2 zip codes, or by the zip codes for only those 2. All right, click next here. It says, what do you want to call it? Well, because I based it on the query, it added the word labels, and I'm okay with that. It kind of lets me know what I'm working with here. It's labels based on the query, zip code selects with the names and the addresses. And it says, do you want to go ahead and see how they're going to be printed? I'll go ahead and click finish here. Okay, now we're getting the error, and that's because I changed the font size to 11 instead of leaving it as 10. It's thinking, okay, there might not be enough room on these labels for all the data that you have. So I'll just go ahead and click OK here. And now look what it says. It's asking me, what is the first zip code that you want? Well, I will go ahead and put in 99403, and I'll click OK. And now it asks me what the second zip code is. Now, if I just leave this blank, it'll only show that one zip code. But again, I did want another zip code as well, so I'll put in 83501. So I'm selecting 2 zip codes using a parameter query. So I'll click OK, and there they are. Just those zip codes. Now, because this is saved, I'm going to go ahead and close it, and we're going to try now. We'll assume it's tomorrow, and I want to go ahead and see how this would work on a later date. So I'll go ahead and open up my labels based on the query zip code select, and there it comes right to the parameter. And I'm going to go ahead and choose just one zip code this time. I'm going to choose 83651. All right, and I don't want a second zip code, so I click OK, and now I have the zip code just for the labels just for that particular zip code. I want to see it in the print preview mode, and again I get that error message because I used too large of a font, and there I have all of my mailing labels for just that one particular zip code. All right, so you can see how easy it is, and actually very, very powerful to use parameter queries to allow you to change the selection criteria on the fly as you're opening the query or running the report. And you can use this not just for mailing labels, you could use this for any particular report. You could put in date ranges, all kinds of things here. Now, obviously, one of the problems with this is I have to remember the zip codes that I have. Now, as you learn a little bit more about Access, and I'll try to get a video out here pretty soon that will show you how to actually make a form where you can use a drop-down list and select the zip codes or whatever other criteria that you wanted to select, and that way you don't have to remember it to choose the parameter for your query. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed this. I do have other Access videos out there. I have step-by-step instructions for this and many other things. on my website, helpinghumanslearn.com or luthermaddy.com. If you like this video, please consider liking it. Please consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.